And we're live. Hello, everyone. We have another Saturday live stream for you guys, I think. Today is a bit more casual just because we don't have the others. They couldn't make it today. So it's just one Blen and myself. We don't have any specific topics for today, so figured we would make it a allspice Saturday.
Yeah, I mean the goal here is sort of a freestyling kind of a thing because Cameron's too sick to be on here. We're both sick, or at least I'm sick and you're exhausted. So we're all
Yeah.
this is a low key stream.
low key, low energy stream. We could probably do purchase people asking for purchase advice, probably do
Yeah, we
that
can.
if we want to. People always ask for that. Um,
Yeah.
First of all, so you guys know how we're doing. How's everybody in the chat doing? High energy, I hope.
Hoja energy.
As usual, this stream and all of our content here is brought to you by headphones.com. Make sure you check out headphones.com if you are in the market for anything new, headphone and audio wise. And also that's where we publish articles. So, and actually, and reviews as well. There was a recent review from Precock Vision up there. And actually, maybe that's something we can talk about. I really liked his review style in that piece where, yes, it did include a lot of the sort of subjective language, but it didn't matter for me that it was about the product. It didn't matter for me, because I wasn't considering the product. It was just I got a really strong sense of why he liked it, and I thought there was something interesting there, something useful there in that style. But anyway, so that's up on headphones.com. Also, we have our forum, which I will be reading from today to get topics for this stream. And there's a couple things that we can talk about. And then what else? Oh yeah, our Discord. Join our Discord. That should be linked in the description. That's where we also get other conversations going. Did I hit everything? I think I hit everything.
Yeah, I mean you didn't actually call out either of the links to those, but they should be in the description.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we should just dive into the chat. If you see anything, feel free to jump on it. I did want to start this with one of the topics from the forum, which is from Owlfile. Shout out to Owlfile. This is the person who has the Owlfile website, which is sort of an EQ tool, which is it kind of bakes in certain features from tone generation, so you can actually do those sort of like manual sweeps. I believe, like
Well,
the
you can
tone
also
gens.
import your own audio, which is just
Yeah,
neat.
yeah. So a lot of cool stuff there on Owlfile. It doesn't have all the functionality that I'd want, but it has much of it, and certainly is a tool that I want to use a little bit more going forward. Anyways, the question is, or the suggestion is, how much potential is there in manual equalization? And we have talked about this a little bit, but
I
my
mean, as
sense of it,
opposed to what? Automatic equalization?
well, like profiles, like putting in auto EQ or oratory's profiles or that kind of stuff. And this is sort of like a fairly broad question because I think there's the theoretical answer and then there's the practical answer, right? Like the theoretical answer is there is infinite potential in equalization unless you're running into limits like excursion limits and things like that.
Mhm.
But practically, I mean, this is something where even if you have all the measurement tools at your disposal, you're not necessarily going to be able to know what good is necessarily because we don't have a reference point for test tones.
Okay, so I get that. So the question isn't specifically about manual EQ, it's about manual EQ using like a tone generator rather than music.
Well, I suppose you could use music too.
The chat is asking if I'm watching football. No, I'm trying to figure out how to turn on dark mode on the forum so it doesn't show up in my glasses as a giant green rectangle. Yeah, I mean, I think that in theory, manual EQ is the best approach, right? Like, in theory, that gets you to what you actually desire. which is, generally preferable. The question is, how consistent are people in actually getting there? And unfortunately, the answer is we legitimately don't know, right? Like
Yeah.
that's one of those things where we all have our priors and they're all basically informed by anecdotes.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah. Yeah. So I just
like
wanted to note when I'm doing my manual EQ, I've I did try to do the thing in the past where I would use the tone gen, right? And I would do the, Kurt, I'd go into Rue, and I check the frequency tracks cursor thing and then just sort of see where various different things were sort of perceptually showing up for me. But I I don't feel that that is necessarily the right way to do things because it doesn't I feel like it's better to do this like if you have a bunch of filters that you're testing and then listen to music, like the same set of, specific tracks, and then adjust those filters just to see if there was a particular peak or something like that, or resonance or something like that. And I think that's probably more practical for people to do, even if it maybe takes a little bit longer. That's sort of my take on it.
yeah, I mean, what's sort of vexing about this one is that it's such a testable thing, but it's untested. My conjecture would be that people will be happier with EQs that they get by music, right? Like a tone gen.
Yeah.
Well, it's like using pink noise, right? Pink noise is objectively the most revealing of resonances, that is to say, deviations in FR. Um, and we know that from Floyd's research, we know that from Sean's research. So, in theory, EQ with pink noise is the most precise. But the problem is, we don't know if that actually relates to what people prefer, right?
Right.
Like timbrally correct pink noise probably correlates to some degree with preference, but my naive expectation here would be that people would probably, if they went into it with an open mind and were willing to iterate, or particularly if there was a way to sort of do a blind A B thing, people would be more likely to get a result they were happy with using music.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that it's more likely they would be happy with the result that they got if they weren't if they weren't sorry. I think it's more likely that they would be happy with the result than it is that they would be equally happy with a preset, because there's meaningful individual variation in what people prefer. I do also think that for a complete noob, the equalization that they do will probably be most destructive with a tone gen and less destructive with music.
Yeah.
Well, because I think with a tone gen, they'll just probably end up EQing down like the entire ear gain.
He's playing whack-a-mole, and it's eventually going to
Yeah.
lead to everything being quieter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't think that's going to go well. I feel like manual EQ has potential, but the potential to cause harm. I feel like there's a much more bounded space of potential good outcome and potential bad outcome with a preset. So it's sort of the how flat is the bell kind of question.
right. Joel says uh, that he's never successfully identified a peak with a tone generator. I'm That surprises me.
It doesn't surprise me super much
like
because
like
you
when you
with a
say
tone gen.
a tone gen, do you mean a sweep, or do you mean like manually, moving along the spectrum to figure out, you know, the relative balance?
I think so. There's a note here, and this is why I tend to talk about pink noise instead of tone gens.
Hmm.
With pink noise, you don't rely on auditory memory. With a
Mm.
tone generator, you tautologically rely on auditory memory, and auditory memory is very squishy.
Well, especially over a wide enough section, right? Like if it's one thing if you have specific peaks that are right next to nulls, right? But it's another thing if you have those peaks and then you're thinking, okay, how is this in relation to like 3 kilohertz or 1 kilohertz or whatever, right?
Well, and there's not a good reference really. Like this is something that R0 is making the point of in chat, but without having flat speakers, which is its own whole thing to unpack, but without having a reference, it's difficult to say what the correct timbre of pink noise or the correct levels of pure tones are. And of course, what that
Interesting.
actually amounts to is, you don't think so?
No, I just see what Joel says is I can add peaks in the treble deliberately and not be able to hear them with any pure tone test.
I'm not surprised. I mean,
I
like that all will depend on the cue and the level, I will say.
yeah.
Um, like you will definitely hear in a pure tone test a 12 dB Q1 peak.
Yeah.
No
Wow, but
chance
I
in the
think
world.
you will be able to hear Q3 peak. I think you like a
At
12 dB
12
peak is a
dB,
lot.
absolutely, yeah. No, but that's what I mean. Like the question though is what is the most discerning? And from the data that we have, that's pink noise. So I
Right.
would suspect that pink noise, possibly M noise. I don't think it was has ever been tested, but things in that sort of zone
Yeah.
are more likely to be revealing.
So this
That
this
said,
does
there's
surprise me though. Like I don't know, like when I'm doing it, and I want to first like I preface this and say that like I don't suggest this for people. Uh, but I like you is asking about basically like the Metal 571 method for manual sweep, right?
no, I'm not.
Nah, nah. You in chat is mentioning this. Uh, when I so basically what you can do is you can make it so that you can using Room EQ Wizard, right? There is a tone generator in Room EQ Wizard, and you can basically play any tone, and you can tick a box that says frequency tracks cursor. And what this does is it allows you to basically like move along the whichever axis that is. Uh, you can move along basically the spectrum from 20 hertz up to
The
20
frequency
kilohertz, the
axis.
frequency axis, yeah. And you can and it'll basically play whatever that pure tone is along that axis. um and so you just the idea is you close your eyes and you gradually kind of move the cursor, as it goes up, and then when something sounds noticeably louder, there is presumably a peak there. But the thing is, we don't necessarily know that that isn't supposed to be there. Right? Like we probably it would be the case like under a certain band, right? You could probably say you'd want it to be reasonably even, depending on your preference, of course, right? Because bass as well, like people like more bass. But you get the idea that like certainly for ear gain, I feel like there's a bit of a trouble there because you don't know what's supposed to be there. But the idea that you can't hear any peak is weird to me.
Well, no, I'm sure that he's not claiming that he can't hear any peak because, again, reductio ad absurdum, you can absolutely make a peak that anyone will hear with any kind of stimulus. I think his point is that he doesn't find it to be effective for differentiating subtle things relative to other things.
See, to me, that's never been the thing about it that is limiting. To me, it's more that you don't know whether or not it's supposed to be there. Joel says, "Yeah, I mean, I can start to hear it at like 10 to 15 dB, but that's basically useless.
How
I can
high
hear it.
Q are these peaks?
I can hear it at like 3 or 4 dB. Like I
Okay,
don't
again, Q is everything here. Q is everything
a
here.
Q of
Like we know
2,
this.
like Q3, Q4, 5. Like I can hear pretty. I don't know, man. Like when I'm talking about peaks here, again, I'm not talking about necessarily like things that in music you would have a reason to care about. Right? I'm saying like just differences in volume level. Yeah, I can hear them pretty easily. Can't you?
I mean, again, Q is everything. Like that's if
Okay, Q
it's like
Q5 dB of 4,
would depend on the frequency. Would depend on the frequency.
6 kilohertz.
I mean, probably.
Yeah,
Like that's something where I would say I haven't done that test. When I've done that in how to listen, I've been fairly consistent there, but
yeah.
that's actually more like a Q3, even in the higher levels. So I don't think that that would be hard though, because that's fairly low in the treble.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me that Joel's perception of the sweep is generally smooth. I do suspect that the sweep specifically is part of it. If you have a tone gen that's continuous and you just adjust the frequency, I think it's a little bit more noticeable. But
I I don't know. I think this is an indictment of Joel's auditory memory being worse than others. Well,
It's
bad
conceivable.
short term auditory memory.
It's conceivable.
Um, but yeah, like for me, that's stuff that I can hear pretty easily, and I can even if I don't do a manual like cursor based sweep, even if I just like do a like push the sweep button, right, the measure button, and go a full 20 to 20k at a length of like I don't know 512, I can hear all kinds of variation in the response and variation if there's a channel where there's a channel mismatch. You can hear that pretty easily too.
I find that that is actually meaningfully easier to detect
Yeah.
than a small peak. Like even a 2 dB channel imbalance is something that you will usually hear in a sine sweep, in my experience. Not strongly, but the center image pans.
Hmm.
But a 2 dB peak is a quite subtle peak, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I don't know. I'm I'm
Well,
I'm a
to be
little
fair,
confused by Joel's
I
situation, but
yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you that it is a 2 dB peak, right? I would just be able to say, "Oh, this is definitely louder here," right? I think knowing exactly, the amplitude would be challenging, or trying to project that. Like you could say this is like like really out of whack, but you wouldn't know if it's necessarily like 5 dB or 6 dB or 7 dB. Anyway,
Mark D says the channel mismatches and sine sweeps make me upset, not because it always matters, but because it makes me go frowny face.
yeah, and that's
Relatable.
the thing, right? Like it's funny because if you I posted like this is a while ago. I posted the FR of one of the. I feel like it was the HU 1000 unveiled, or maybe it was just something, one of those hi-fi headphones. And there was a little bit of a channel imbalance, and people were like overly scrutinizing in the treble specifically. And I know people were
As
overly
they do.
yeah, and people were like, "Oh, this is unacceptable for like this level, this kind of price point." And that's like, okay, I understand where you're coming from here, but you have to realize that that is not remotely perceptually relevant. Like, certainly not with music. It might be relevant with test tones. You might be able to hear that with test tones. But the bigger issue is potentially the difference between the two ears, right? Like if like your ears probably match worse than what you're seeing with the small little channel imbalances in the treble. Um, So yeah, I think there's a because of what the graph sort of visually represents and how people attach their worldviews to it. Uh, there's a tendency for people to kind of over-index for things that are not perceptually relevant, and I would say that that is also true with test tones with sweeps, where it is highly perceptually relevant when you get a channel mismatch, but that does not like even a slight channel mismatch, especially in the treble. But you won't hear that with music, or you won't be able to identify that with music.
Some ginger in chat says that his experience is the same as Joel's. The DT770 sounds the same as the Eon Noir.
What?
Interesting. Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
you get to spend less money.
well, no, he's not saying he can't hear it. He's saying that it's in pure tone testing.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, for that, I gotcha.
Yes, this
Interesting.
it would be pretty weird if he said that it was just in general.
Why are you into headphones then? Like,
I mean, honestly based.
yeah.
Like I endorse this.
I mean, I'm just reading the earlier spicy take here. EQ by ear is not difficult even for untrained listeners.
That's a hot take.
Okay.
I, so okay, here's like I don't know. I guess this is just the good faith interpretation. I think that it's not hard for untrained listeners to identify problems. I think it's very hard for untrained listeners to infer how EQ will sound. Does that seem fair?
Yeah. I also think there's a baseline. Like, imagine you took like a bunch of people, put them in a room, and gave them the same kind of like headphone that has a really weird frequency response, and told them to EQ it. You would have all kinds of different results. So, um, I don't think you really have a good sense of if you know it's like the whole not you know you might not have the best sense of the terrain without a map, right? Like even if you're even if you're walking along the path. Um,
Ionic
EQing.
Aqua.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
No, no,
No,
you
no,
go
you
ahead.
first. Okay. Ionic Aqua says placebo is a very underrated method of improving perceived audio quality, followed by I'm not trying to say everyone should get cables and stuff. Well, everyone should get cables, otherwise they can't connect things. Um, but I think people shouldn't be criticized slash judged for buying into stuff they believe would change sound quality as it's different ways of playing.
Okay.
I'm I devil's advocate for this position sometimes, but I think that that's going a bit far, particularly because it puts money into the pockets of snake oil merchants.
Yeah.
Like the
The
normative complaint that we usually have is that, I think, and misinforming
the
other people.
there is there's something philosophically interesting about this take. I think there's several things that are interesting here. One is the whole like um just let people have fun, man, even if it's placebo, right? Like so the question would be here like are you better off uh like are you actually having a better experience when the spell is broken versus the person who is oh this amp that makes a massive difference or this cable does this thing. That's the one sort of question there, right?
Well, I think that that's sort of the steel man of that position, right? But I think the steel man of the opposite position is that audio nervosa is everywhere. Like the number of people I've seen who
Yeah.
worry about not hearing a headphone or a speaker at its best because they had a bad amplifier, cable, DAC, etc. I think you can make a meaningful argument that in a lot of cases this actually detracts from listener enjoyment.
What detracts believing in it?
Yeah, the placebo, because it makes
Well,
them insecure about what they're actually hearing.
right. There's that. There's also the money that they spend on that they could have put towards something else that would have actually made a bigger difference, especially if they're not EQing. Um, but the other side of this, and we touched on this last stream with Mark Ryan, um, which is that yeah, the other side of it is that there are situations where somebody may have genuinely heard a difference. Say, for example, with amplifiers like high output impedance, making a nonlinear impedance headphone sound warmer. They have every reason to believe that it's the amplifier doing this because they used it on like a bunch of different other amplifiers and it didn't sound any different. Then they go to that one amplifier that has high open impedance. They don't know that what's going to happen there, right? And they think they have experience of the headphone that's sounding warmer. So they think, oh, it's the amplifier. That's the thing I'm plugging it into that is
Which
warmer.
it is.
Well, if it's high output impedance, so the end result is that there is a warmer sound. Yeah. But now they have this idea in their head that this amplifier is warmer and is going to always make every headphone that you run from it sound warmer. When if you had a headphone that had a flat had linear impedance, you wouldn't have that same effect, right? It would just be quieter, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can see that it's something that could happen. I'm not really that sold on how often that does happen.
So
Like
I don't think that happens as much in the amplifier. I to be clear, I think it happens, and I think this is what prompts people in certain cases to believe that amplifiers have a sound, right? That they make a bigger difference than they genuinely do in most cases, because in those situations the differences are quite obvious, right? And I think Mark gave an example of one that he tried at CanJam where he tried it on a he tried a headphone he didn't like. It was super bright. Tried on a different amplifier, it sounded warm, and it was totally fine, right? So it's like there are these
well, yeah, but
cases
that
where it
was a
happens.
TH909 or whatever, right? It was a Fosdex, so that
Yeah, I
shouldn't have
don't.
that variable of
I
a
said
Z.
some Fostex. I don't know which one it was, but yeah, presumably there's something going on there with an output impedance relationship. The second
Maybe.
bit about
Or placebo.
this, I actually think that the more likely scenario is in the okay. I have to be careful with how I say that. It's not that this is more likely, but I think it is entirely plausible that somebody could go to a can jam, try out go to one of those like Empire Ears booths or the Let's Sure booth, try out the Cadenza 12, for example, and then have somebody say to them, "Hey, try it with this $800 cable," and it changes the sound because those IEMs are low impedance and they have nonlinear impedance. And now that person is cable pilled, and they now have this additional expectation of cables make a difference. And now we're in a situation for this person where it's impossible to know where the measurable tangible change ends and placebo begins, because all the rest of the time that they're trying out these things, they have this expectation bias that is affecting whether what their experience is, right? I'm not saying it's all the time that this is happening, but I can definitely see a scenario where people have good reasons to believe that these things actually matter in ways that, if they understood fully what was going on, they wouldn't have this perspective. And now that's created this sort of inertia for them to start, wasting money on on cables and amplifiers or whatever else, right?
So I have a hot take on this one, but I actually kind of think that this is like a stage of coping that everyone who's more skeptically inclined goes through in the process of internalizing that a lot of people believe in this stuff. Like, I acutely remember using this argument quite often, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Obviously, there's the Northwest AV guy, Output Impedance blog.
Hmm.
This is like a common thing that people who are like, okay, so I want to throw a bone to these people go to. But someone used the term sane washing at some point in politics, and honestly, I kind of feel like that's what we're guilty of there. Is like, we've gone so far in trying to steel man the position that we're building, something that happens, but which is a very niche case compared to the person who
Yeah.
plugs an HD 600 into an amplifier with
Well,
less than a 50 ohm output
I
impedance
think,
and then hears a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
change, even though the
I,
FR is barely changed.
I hear what you're saying. I think it is a less likely. So in my view, it happens. I know this happens because I've seen it happen. Um, both in the with the case of the amplifiers and the nonlinear impedance headphones and the cables. Um, but I think the bigger uh catalyst for the cable memes and the amp memes is much more to do with the marketing copy and the expectation that if you pay a certain amount for a thing, you're going to get a thing that promises, right? And these are things that people need to take on faith, and is propagated as a result of purchase justification, right? Um, like there were, I'm trying to think, like back in the before times, like there were even people talking about how like the shit amps had different sound signatures depending on their gain, high gain versus low gain, and you should use it in high gain if you want to get whatever out of it. I just remember like all of this kind of stuff, and it's like so much of this was, it's
Okay,
like how,
so I will say, in their frame of reference, which I do want to note is a fantasy, it makes sense, right? Like, the premise that gain level would change the sound of a headphone makes sense because the way you change gain in a classically configured amplifier is by changing the amount of feedback. So it would make sense if you believe that there is a sound to feedback or a sound to amplifiers, that the sound of the amplifier would change when you change the gain. However,
yeah,
this runs into the problem of the differences that it makes in anything we can measure are infinitesimal, right?
yeah,
So it's
yeah. All right, on to the next one.
sure, why not? I feel like that one's a pretty old one.
Yeah. And to be
Yes.
clear, I'm not necessarily throwing a bone to the cable memers when I'm saying that. I'm just trying to
No,
give a
no.
plausible explanation for why somebody might have that, you know, happen to them. And
Again,
then they're like,
I get it. I just sort of think that that's sort of a thing that it's like a stage of coping that we go through as we try to have some agency over other
yeah.
people's weird beliefs. We're like, no, no, no. This person didn't just form this strange belief that I can't impact organically. They had like a real understandable experience. And if I talk to them, then I can talk them out of it.
Well, I mean, in a sense, it's a good faith approach to it, right? Like you're trying to do to, you know, do
There's a
your best
difference
to.
between good faith and making a titanium man of the physician. Like, this is beyond steel manning.
Well, I don't know. I think that the Beyond Steel Manning, that should be like a name for something. Beyond the Steel Man, would be more along the lines of like their experience is just genuinely better because of the placebo that they indulge in.
Yeah, and that's the one where I'm not sold on that just because I see so like this is one thing where I think that reading, and I'd really recommend everyone do this. Reading Jason Stoddard's blog has always been really useful to me in terms of revealing how the other half thinks, because he purports to be a fence sitter, but obviously isn't. He obviously has his beliefs, which is his business, but the topics that he addresses frequently include people being paranoid about audible differences, or this device making their headphones worse, their speakers worse. Do I need this new thing? Do I need this tweak?
Hmm.
um and of course that's part of how these things come off as sane, right? Like by shitting on something that is yet more eccentric. That's why Cameron is very quick to go after the purple fuses, right? Because it's a common ground even for people who are less dubious on some of the other things with the people who are the most skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for that stuff to be the whipping boy.
Well, yeah, because there's no one who wants to defend it.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, who
um,
wants to be the guy to go in for them?
yeah. Okay. Additive EQ is nearly impossible to judge objectively because nothing sounds better than level.
I mean, that's true-ish. Like, the real this take is like a good take that's covered in slightly bad framing, because the real answer is, without loudness matching, comparing EQs is very difficult.
100%. No. The big that to me is, we talked about this before, but that's the biggest you know, in my view at least, I think that's largely responsible for the EQ ruins your technicalities, but all right.
Yeah,
Joel
well, I
says,
mean, particularly because people are tending to do subtractive EQ, so
of
things
course.
get quieter,
Of
which
course,
sounds
yeah.
worse.
Yeah. Okay, Joel says we need to stop talking about the output impedance making a difference with amplifiers, because amplifiers with high output impedance should never be recommended.
I
Yeah.
have
Okay.
framed
So
it this
that's
way internally before. I
yeah,
think we
that's
should have a
that.
pass fail.
Yeah, yeah, and like, and even with the cables thing, right? Like, there are other reasons why that's stupid. Like, for example, if you wanted to change the sound of a thing, you could just do it with EQ or buy something else. Like, spending $800 to change the sound in ways that you don't know, right? Even if it is actually having an effect, is less optimal than doing it in ways that you're deliberate about.
Yeah, I mean, I think the scenario that would be cool is if more headphones. God, I hate the dip switches. I really want headphones that just have a dial or two on them, because that seems to be so much more user friendly. But
Yeah.
like, it would be cool if those sorts of effects were used by manufacturers to give people some personalization. Like, imagine if the Andromeda came with a little dial on its stock cable that would change it
Oh,
from
on the cable.
zero to like, yeah, it's from like 0 to 10 ohms impedance, and that'd be kind of neat, right?
Yeah.
Like, because then you could change how trebly that headphone is, because that IM, well, that IM is because that IM has basically just a rising impedance with frequency. I don't know, stuff like that can be cool. So I don't want to say that people should just buy a Qtelix, because sometimes there are things that could be more intuitive and user friendly than a Qtelix.
But people should just buy a Qtelix.
I mean, people should buy a Qtelix.
So they can give me all that sponsor money.
I really wish that they would return my emails.
I'm trying to
If
find.
you in the audience know anyone at Qtelix,
Yeah.
contact them and tell them to talk to headphones.com.
I'm trying to find the, in my clutter here, the Soft Ears Volume S, but I can't find it right now because it has the little It's not a dip switch, but it functions like a dip switch. It's in the IEM, and there's a little, you need like a little flathead screwdriver or something to turn it.
Oh. Oh,
Um,
wait, is it so it rotates?
it rotates, yeah.
Is it detonted, or is it?
Uh, no, it's not. No, it's just like all the way one way or all the way the other way.
Oh yes, that's probably just a little trim pot. Cute.
Yeah, the annoying thing, and I wish I had it here, but I can't find it for some reason. My space is a mess right now. The annoying thing is that it's not the same. It's not the same on both set of pieces. So on one earpiece, it's it's horizontal, and the other earpiece it's vertical. Just super annoying.
Why?
I don't know. At least on
That's
my unit, it was like
awful.
that. Yeah, it's horrible, right? Like, it's like, why would you do it like this? There's no way to
Oh
know.
god. Jesus.
Yeah. Um, but also, like, I kind of think that the tuning switches on IEMs is like I've had them in the past where they've been more innocuous, but like my thought with that is like I've never had a situation where I've used an IEM that had a tuning switch where I would ever want to go between the two. It's always, this is the one that I just prefer, and I just leave it like that. You know, like it makes
Well, I
sense
mean
from a
that's
product standpoint because you're like, I can satisfy multiple groups by doing this with the same product. But from a user perspective, I've never been like, yeah, today I'm going to use the bright mode. Like I've never had that feeling, and maybe that's just me. All right.
so I mean, I don't think the point is that you should be adjusting it on a dynamic basis. I know Sean has proposed that before, but that seems like hell. Like the premise of being like, oh, different song.
Yep. Gotta flip it.
Fuck me, that's awful.
Yeah.
But I think that from a user like perspective, that's a good idea. I think it would be ideal if users were able to say, I want more bass, right? Like that
Yeah, but
that'd
then
be a very common one.
why won't you just get a bassier? Oh, you're saying like
So I think that it would be better if we had fewer products on the market that met more tastes.
met more tastes. Yeah.
Like if someone likes an IM generally, but their take is I want more bass, yes, that company could make a bass edition of it, or you could get something similar after finding it on Squiglink. But wouldn't it be more ideal if you could just up the bass?
I guess. I don't know. My problem with it is that it typically ends up being one of them is just so bad that I would never use it. You know.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's
implementation wise, it's fraught.
yeah. Anyway, um, let's see. I do genuinely think I hear a difference on the THX AAA 789 on gain 3 compared to gain 1 or gain 2/1.
Well,
And
gain one isn't actually a gain level, like it's a voltage divider.
I haven't used that amplifier,
That said,
so
ABX or shut up. Put up or shut up. Actually, if
A-
Cameron thinks he can hear that, I would love to do that as a thing with them.
yeah, a fun ABX, right? That one would be reasonably easy to do because you would just need to change the level, in whatever you're using.
I would probably do it with two devices, ideally, just so that it could be fast
Yeah,
switching, just to give them the
yeah,
best chance.
yeah. Um, AirPods Pro 2 USB-C genuinely sounds better than AirPods Pro 2 Lightning, which already sounded fantastic. Hmm. Now, is it this? I I don't
Did they
know.
revise it?
Yeah, like I don't know that it's. Are we saying is the take here that it's the connector that, like the USB? It's just a
I
different
mean,
version.
USB-C does famously sound better than Lightning.
The perspective here is that it's the version, right? Like that the USB-C version is tuned better.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, really, the Cobb is not
Okay.
insane.
I know. It's like, um, it's like Jake. Come on.
R0 says topping Hane is a nightmare. Yeah, yeah.
Wait, which one is
That
that?
that's the one that has like 5 dip switches.
Oh, oh God, 5.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still waiting for someone to do because like you can get SMD dip switches that are up to like 16 switches. I'm still waiting to see an IEM that's just literally like, fuck you, you figure out the crossover. If you're so smart, how about you make the IEM?
Yeah, it's like it's like a what were those? I'm thinking of the bottlehead stuff where they sent you the kit and then you had to make it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Or I mean, if we're going back to the classics, Heathkit.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Man, this is why people think I'm older. So Heathkit was like the ubiquitous way to DIY like ham radio, home audio, all that stuff from like the 50s through to maybe even the
Yeah, why
90s.
would I know that?
Why wouldn't you know that? Did your father never build a fucking Heathkit like
No,
receiver or something?
no, no,
Lame.
no, no. My father built a guitar. He's built several guitars.
I mean, that's cool,
Yeah,
but not the same.
yeah. Oh, they're acoustic
I am
guitars.
not a radio guy. I do not want anyone to think that I'm a radio guy. I see
Blame the
no
radio
appeal
guy. North
whatsoever in ham
Northwest
radio.
radio guy.
Oh god.
um, so actually, so Jake, with the AirPods Pro 2 USB-C versus Lightning, it's possible that they could have made a revision. However, I do want to note that this could also be a unit variation thing because I don't know what the tolerances actually are on those AirPods. And I say that with a Lightning version that does not measure like other Lightning versions that I've seen. So, any cable over $30 which uses PVC as insulation is an absolute ripoff. PTFE/TPU cables are much more tolerant to becoming stiff whilst only adding $4 to $5 in the cost at most. Interesting. I know nothing about this. Blaine is arguing with Chad about something. What's
No,
the
I'm not
mind-boggling
arguing
take
with
here?
Chad. It's just a drill tweet. It's the I'm not mad. Please don't put in the newspaper that I got mad, but it was with the being into radio.
Oh,
Ham
okay.
never made sense to me.
Right.
Anyway, okay, so now we have hot takes in chat about the HE1. I think warm mids are good.
Hey, let's read the take. The HE1 is a good headphone, but definitely not perfection. And then listener says the HE1 is great at all of the non-sound parts of being a headphone. Genuinely great. The sound is only okay.
It's a bit of an extreme take.
I mean, listeners full of extreme takes.
People think that I'm like the dark edge lord of this whole thing, but actually it's Griffin. Griffin just plays a character of being soft and fluffy.
Yeah. And you play a character being hard and prickly.
Cantankerous.
Yeah, really, you guys are actually like reversed.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of uncanny, actually.
Yeah. In every way.
Also, Griffin's been telling people that I bit him at Can Jam, and I legitimately don't think that happened.
But you may have bit him by accident. You don't know
How
that
could
you
I
didn't
have
bite.
bit him by accident?
I could have been biting him in your spare time.
I think I'd remember that.
Okay.
Okay, Joel
HE1.
actually has a great take.
Okay.
HE1 is the best headphone in the world, which means that it's pretty mid. That's actually a very good take.
Oh my god. Blaine should get FCC technician license? Why?
Yeah, no, that's a bad idea.
Okay, here we go. HE1 versus Ralamanis. Someone says they'd take the Amanis.
This is just trolling. You're just
No,
being trolled.
there are people who genuinely would take the Amanis over the HE1. They think it sounds more
I do
detailed.
not believe anyone could sit down with those two headphones and then say, "Yeah, the Amanis is the one I want."
Yeah, but see, there are people who have done that, and they have said that.
Okay, this is alleged.
People.
Okay, name me a person who had access to an HE1 who chose the Amanis.
Fair. I do not know. I do
Yeah.
not know. This is fair.
To me, it seems kind of like saying, "Yeah, I prefer my car to a Ferrari."
Yeah, but
It's
I'll
like,
give you an
yeah,
example though. The people who say the HE1 is not particularly detailed, kind of smoothed over, kind of blunted, and for them the Amanis does the detail thing, right? Because
well,
it
yeah,
has that.
one of them has an upper mid-range canon effect, and the other one has relaxed mids. So one of them sounds beautiful,
Yeah,
and one of them sounds like nails on chalkboard.
Yeah, but maybe people are like, oh, nails on chalkboard.
I
That's
mean, it can be novel, but I would be shocked. Even like the Imanus is bad enough, I would be shocked in a cited test if it didn't utterly devastate.
yeah. No, but I'm saying, okay, maybe we can do this at a can jam, right? Like if like
Yeah, we'll just ask them to lend us their HE1.
yeah, and the Amanus, like clearly that'll go over well. But no, like the premise is still a cool one. I think people would be into that because I bet there are people who genuinely believe that they would prefer it or that it would be preferred. My thought process is more along the lines of like, what are the percentages? Like, is it 75% that would prefer the HE1, 80%, 90%? Like,
To the Imanus?
yeah, are you saying like 100%? Because I feel like there would be at least some
I
who would prefer
think
the Amanus.
in a Sean style test where people couldn't see, I think that the answer would be 100%. I think that the
Interesting.
answer would only fall below 100% if you had hundreds of people because they are that far apart in things that we know people care about.
Hmm.
Cited, I also kind of think it would be 100% because one of them looks and feels a lot better than the other one. Like outside of maybe people from the water cooler thread, I can't really
That
think of
no, but
anyone who would.
those are the people who are there. So you're
Yeah, I
gonna get,
mean,
you know,
I could see one or two of them. I feel like I would want them to be dosed with a truth serum because I wouldn't even be sure if they were being honest or coping.
I mean, like they could be honest and still coping.
Yeah.
I
Well,
feel like that's most of it is
the
honest.
question is how much is self delusion and how much is saving
Yes.
face?
No, so I mean, yeah. So that, I get what you're saying. There's probably some of the saving face going on where they, yeah. But self delusion is a hell of a drug, man. Like I feel like people, like even if yes, it is true that the HE1 is a more premium and more comfortable device, right? It's a better feeling device in all respects, basically. Um, people like that more kind of like rustic, like kind of I don't know what else to say. Aesthetic of the Amanus, I thought it had a certain charm to its visual. It's not for me personally, but I could see somebody liking it.
I mean, it's
I'm being a devil's advocate here.
I don't want to dunk. I don't dislike Alex, and I like Raw has some decent ribbons for speakers, but the look, really,
Yeah, some people might like it. That's all I'm saying.
I, I have a difficult time
We look it
conceiving of
up
that.
here.
All
Uh,
right. Also, IKEA in chat has been very angry about the use of PVC as an insulator for cables,
yeah, I already did that one.
and he seems to have invented a new material though, which is TPFE.
Instead of PTFE.
I would guess so.
Uh, yeah, rustic is how I would describe the Amanus aesthetic. It's that sort of like like it kind of has that like similar made of wood materials vibe going on with the. It's like if ZMF and Meze had a baby that was not made by either company.
So it's like ZMF and so you're saying it's like ZMF and Meze had a deformed baby.
Yeah. Oh, that's mean.
Yes, yes, it is.
Oh my god. All right. That could go into several dark places.
Spinal bifida headphone.
Ultimate Ears line drive unity gain buffer is the
Never heard of
better
this.
is the better i5 IE match voltage divider. Yeah, I haven't heard of this either. Ultimate Ears
UE
is still a
Pro
thing.
line drive. Um. Okay, so this is something that I can only find as a used product. This is just an amp. Bro, this is just an amp.
All right.
This is like a FiO E6, but way more expensive.
Okay, let's see. Griffin, give us a spicy take here. We're running dry. Oh, did you see the news about the new Sennheiser headphone? Sennheiser,
HD 505.
yeah. 505. What are your thoughts?
Cautious optimism. I mean, like, Sennheiser hasn't been too bad lately. It would be nice to see a new good release.
Mhm.
They are marketing it as more analytical than the HD 560S, which has already
Well,
polarized Griffin against it.
that's a bit of a problem to be more analytical than that.
Yeah, assuming that analytical is a code word for bright, that would be a little bit worrying.
Okay.
But I'm I'm cautiously optimistic. It looks nice.
It does look nice.
Hopefully they will have improved the chassis a little bit. Like, they seem to
Yeah.
be iteratively getting a little bit better. I
No
still just want
damping.
more 490 kind of vibes. Oh yeah, the lack of a front pad over the driver is fucking surreal though. That's just asking to get hairs in there.
Yeah. Unless they do, and this is just the image.
No, Sennheiser was talking about this. I forget who it was, but it was one of their guys was talking about this take that having damping in the front makes headphones sound less detailed.
Yeah, I mean that's a common take. That's not, like, and there's a sense in which that could be kind of true if you have. I'm thinking of situations where you have, like Dan's waveguide thing, right? Where if it doesn't actually work for like if it actually makes it so that for that person's HRTF, it's like it's causing more problems than it's solving. It could end up having that effect. Though I don't know that's really the spirit of what the front damping is, makes things sound less detailed, comes from.
Okay. So Cobb says, I think the assumption that the preferred listening level does not affect preferred frequency response is fraught. That isn't an assumption. That has been tested. There is a correlation between frequency response preferences and level preferences. People who like it louder also like it bassier.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was McMullen et al. Actually, I think it was just McMullen, 2015 or 2017. It's on the AES.
Shout outs to Liz.
Yep. I don't think that we're on a first name basis with Elizabeth McMullen. I don't even think we're on a first name basis with Todd Welty, frankly. Like, we're on a first name basis with Sean because we know him, but I think that they just don't care
You
about
just call
us.
him Mr. Welty. Isn't he in your Discord?
Nah, technically. He doesn't
Yeah.
boast.
Yeah. It's reasonable. Let's see. Yeah, I was thinking with the preferred listening level does not affect preferred frequency response thing. Odyssey headphones, the older ones that had the,
Yeah.
the lack of ear gain, you could turn it up. There's a preference for that group, probably. Normal caps are bad for music listening. I have the idea to make audiophile caps to where you don't have any bad influence on the sound. You mean like hats?
Yeah, this is just a pun. He's making a
This
pun on
is literally
audiophile
that.
capacitors and a cap.
This is literally that. This is an audiophile hat. It smooths the brain. If I
Ellie
had hair, I would wear it.
2773 says meta is boring. Joel says meta is only boring if you're not adjusting it to your own taste. Word salad is an art form. Yeah. Griffin comes with a spicy take. If you have esoteric taste in music, you should not be an audiophile reviewer.
I should not be an audiophile reviewer. I mean,
Should
there's all kinds of
anyone be
other
an
reasons.
audiophile reviewer?
Yeah,
Like,
there's all kinds of other reasons. Well, no, like I was actually having this discussion, I should say, with somebody else on our forum, where they're talking about like how they liked that in the recent video I did on the Soft Ears Volume S, where I just did my impressions of it, right? They felt they got a better sense of the product as opposed to the more kind of like analytic, like let's measure it, let's go through the all the technical shit, right? And fair enough, but I realized that like I like, on the one hand, yes, I do feel there's a sense of like it's irresponsible to just dive headlong into like the audiophile language because of the private language problem. But I also just think, like, for me at least, the things that are interesting to me in this space are just so far removed from the traditional sort of like community lexicon that it just I don't get excitement about the detail or the resolution. I get excitement about how good the frequency response is in my eardrum, and because that makes the music sound good, you know. So it's almost like I'm not the right person for I'm not the right audiophile reviewer. I'm not a good audiophile reviewer in that sense, because that's what they want. They want to know, you know, is this more detailed? Is this less detailed? Is this more dynamic? How's the sound stage? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like, that's I don't know if I can give you that answer. Like, I can give you that answer for me, but then they need to be able to read my mind to get a sense of how I attach meaning, and that feels unfair.
Wow, I misread a post here, and I was gonna be like, "This is the most based thing someone has ever said in this chat." What it actually says is reviewers should come with accurate summary blurbs. What I read it as reviewers should come with an accurate summary of bribes. Like you could just have like logos on there,
Yeah,
like wearing a sort of a F1 jersey.
yeah. Uh, oh, Griffin, we should add a politics channel to our server because it would finally get
Don't
Sean to put
don't
actual
indulge him.
Discord.
Don't indulge him.
Yeah. I wanted to get to the JM1, or the new meta. Sorry, the meta
Yeah.
is boring thing. Um, so Joel says if meta is boring, that's your fault for not adjusting it to taste. So there's this idea. So Kryn came out with his new target, right? Um, and
I
it's
wouldn't
just like
know.
a
I don't pay attention to IAMs.
yeah. So basically, it's just like really focused towards the sub bass for the bass lift, right? So it's like a lot of sub bass. Um, and the contention is basically that if you go with the rest of the response is pretty similar to, you know, JM1, let's just say, uh, which is great, but you know, his contention was if you apply a normal bass shelf to that, or a more traditional bass shelf, let's say, it gets muddy really quickly. And I think that that's true, but I think this also is an indication that just, you know, that kind of bass profile is just not appropriate for what that bass line is. So I agree with Joel. It's like you have to apply what your preference filters are to that to know. I like, if you want more bass, for example, that's a preference. You need to know what that is in proportion to, you know, how the treble is or whatever else about it. Um, but as a starting point, it makes perfect sense. Anyway, that's that.
Mm.
My sort of conjecture on all that stuff is you would probably end up with a easier time avoiding the mud problem with JM1 if there was less level overall for the bass, but also less of a distinct shelf, so that you had a more gradual sloping rise into the sub bass. I think that's the more appropriate way to do bass for meta. And the problem is I don't
I
know that that's true because no product exists that's like that yet. So
Yeah, I'm honestly not sold on the idea that having slightly forward lower mids is bad. This is an extremely common trait of both headphones
yeah,
and speaker room systems, and I'm really not sold on it being non-preferable.
yeah. I think, but I do get the idea that, like, if you add the same crazy levels of bass that people are wanting to put in this stuff, you know, then it could get muddy, right? And you don't want that. So how do you fix that without losing the amount of bass? Well, you create some sort of distinct bass profile there that doesn't, you know,
I
doesn't swell up that
Do we
region.
really believe that people exist who want like 16 or 20 dB of bass though?
I mean, maybe it's not even 20. Like, let's look at Crin's new
I mean,
bass.
Crin's target seemed reasonable-ish.
Yeah, it's just very focused towards the sub bass. And it is a distinct bass shelf, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would necessarily actually score that well in like a blind test, but it
Yeah.
doesn't seem terrible.
No, it doesn't seem terrible. That's what I was saying. Like, it actually seems quite reasonable. But I do think that there are there are better ways of doing bass. That's my conjecture on this. Um, Certainly better for how I would like to listen to it. Like, I don't like it when there's so much sub bass. Things just sound like a bit slow and poofy. That to me sounds poofy. Right? Whereas if you have a more gradual rise with less overall level, it can sound more punchy and more tactile and more intense. And I do think there are products that have demonstrated that reasonably. So but again, that's just my conjecture. I don't know if that's true.
I really, and this could even be a topic of discussion, but something I really want to do is a listening test that is all good targets.
Yeah.
Well, because right now we have a really robust body of evidence that the majority of headphones sound pretty bad. No surprise there. That there are things that people strongly prefer consistently. No surprise there. But we don't really actually have that much data on how a group of good but different things compare to each other. And I think that that would be much more interesting for doing things like the whole segmentation and clustering and stuff.
100%. I had this exact thought. I was recently rereading one of Sean's recent IEM papers. First for a totally unrelated reason. But I kept coming to like realizing like there's something about this that is just like any reasonable target here would probably perform just as well. Like, like a lot of this is these ones are preferred because they are reasonable targets. And it's not necessarily because they are the best. It's just because they are reasonable. And there are many different ones that could fit there that you could slot in there and they would do just as well.
It would also be cool to figure out just how precise we can get with a target, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
what's the level of good where people stop consistently differentiating in quality? Because
Yeah.
it will be quite a bit
Yeah.
above the level where people stop being able to hear the difference, obviously. This is actually
Well,
something I'm planning to do in my seminar about, but I've heard a lot of people who seem to basically treat people rate these the same as well, but I can hear the difference. And it's like, yeah, but people on average rated those two audibly different things the same.
the same. And so here's my thought on that. If you have it's not necessarily it's difficult to be able to get what like understand why people are rating them highly, right? Like you can't really extract that from the comparisons. And so like it might be that oh yeah, someone's like, oh, I really love the way the bass is handled with this one. And then that's what they're focusing on and they're like this is great because there's so much more bass here.
You know what I think would be interesting, actually, just to sort of cut in on this,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm
go
thinking
ahead.
about this from like an econ standpoint. If you did a test where people could try a whole bunch of different sound signatures, and at the end they would be given the one that they wanted, right? Like, no, wouldn't actually have to, but tell the people who you're testing that they're going to get this device and see how that impacted.
So you can yeah, actually that's a great idea. So they're being so much they have to be like extra selective for
Mhm.
what they
Exactly.
man, that's a cool idea. It's an expensive idea, but
Yeah. I mean, again, you don't actually have to do it, but if you tell
you
them
should
you're
just
going
tell
to do it,
people.
you get the same result.
Yeah. Surprise,
But
you
you know,
get
like
nothing.
sort of making it a
Yeah,
something where
racing.
they're viewing this more as a purchase decision, something where they're
Yeah,
saying this affects materially what I'll have rather than in
yeah.
this moment this was good.
It raises the stakes, almost like it turns them into a subject sensitive invariant test. uh, here's another way that you could do it though. You could say, I'm gonna I'm gonna put you I'm gonna keep you in a room for an hour, and you have to listen to this product for the entire hour. Which one do you choose?
I think that's false imprisonment, which is a
It is
crime.
totally.
I think that it's better to lie to them about giving them something than it is to threaten them with imprisonment.
I will inflict this audio product on you, this audio
I mean,
experience on you.
it does remind me of that thing of people who are just their task was to sit in a room with a button that administered an electric shock, and a lot of people administered multiple electric shocks to themselves just because they got bored.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what happens. Yeah. We have a lot more takes here. Listener says Resolve hates low mids. I don't hate low mids. I just don't like mud.
He
I
does
like.
hate low mids.
I don't. Where is this coming from?
From you hating
The
low mids.
This is not true. This is not true. I just gave a pitch on how you could do bass better, which is to not have the low mid scoop, but also not have as much level overall in bass, right? To have a more gradual rise sloping up into the sub bass. Which
Multiple people in chat are confirming that you hate low mids.
this is bullshit. This is nonsense.
Noxt says two source components that measure identically while driving the world's easiest load (parentheses audio precision input) are very likely to perform completely differently while driving a complex load. Two things here, and I said this in chat. 600 ohms and flat impedance isn't actually that easy. Like, it's easier than a 32 ohm load, but it's not that easy. There's a reason that op amp data sheets have that and 2K usually. But also, we do measure devices with loads connected that are much harder than 600 ohms. Indeed, if you want to see reactive measurements, you can see them in speaker amps with things like the so-called power cube. They matter less in headphones because headphones consume approximately zero fucking power.
Capra is asking, how's the new headband? It's good and bad. It's better than the one that I was using before. Because it this has better clamp force. That one was that was the one that DMS used for the Omega. But with the Omega, it's got really big pads, right? So you're kind of like that. With this one, the pads, I'm not using huge pads, so I needed a bit more clamp force, and that headband was less appropriate. But what I don't like about this one is that it doesn't have anything underneath here, and so it is only appropriate for big heads. So I have like somewhat of a solution that I'm trying to figure out here. Like this little strap potentially. We'll see. Maybe Capra, if you can make me something that works with this. This is basically like a knockoff of the ZMF headbands that I just got on AliExpress. So I'm not going to end up. This isn't the headband that I'm going to end up using, right? For this whatever this is. But I just need something with more clamp force for now. So does the job. This is I will not tolerate this Resolve hates lower mids bullshit. This is just not true. This is a false narrative.
Hashtag Resolve hates lower mids.
You're gonna put that on a t-shirt.
Yep.
New merch.
Mudfi. Griffin says, we don't know that listeners don't prefer DF-HRTF because the listening tests that led to this conclusion were colored by errors inherent to EQing to the HRTFs of the rigs versus humans. I don't agree with the reasoning, but actually you can conclude from some of the early Olive experiments that people under some circumstances don't find DF that objectionable. It would surprise me if straight DF was preferred when it was put up against anything like the Harman target, though.
Let me just see if I understand this take correctly, though. Is the take that people didn't actually get DF-HRTF at their eardrum because of HBTF variation issues?
I think that's what he is implying.
Which is probably true. I mean,
yeah, but how impactful that would be on, because like when you look at some of the other Olive papers, there seems to be a pretty consistent trend that the bass treble relationship is the big thing.
Yeah, and I feel
that won't be really affected there.
So here's the other thing, though. Like, there's probably something to that, but Sean regularly reminds me that there's more to what people prefer than just HRTF matching. So, which is to say that we don't know that HRTF matching is necessarily the thing that is most preferred.
Yeah, no, I mean that's just pure conjecture.
That's
something
conjecture,
that I make the point of repeatedly.
Yeah, so even if you were able to control for FR at the eardrum of the individual person relative to their HRTF and get it right, that doesn't necessarily mean that that would be more preferred.
No, in fact, we have some evidence that it might not be. There have been cases where in HRTF choices, admittedly for spatial audio, some people have preferred other people's HRTFs.
Yeah.
Now, before Joel gets on me, yes, I know that the study with the fucking KU 100 and stuff was done wrong. But there have been other studies that found somewhat similar results there.
I just want to note, though, what Griffin says here, we don't actually know that listeners don't can't prefer DF. I mean, that
We
would be
don't
true as
actually
well.
know that listeners don't not disprefer it.
No, but what he's saying there is probably true. Like, we don't actually know because it's not something we can be sure of, right?
Griffin
It's
is now
not ruled
trapped in
out.
New Jersey.
Oh, that's fun. What to
That's
do?
where he belongs.
Kef's has a facility there, don't they? You can visit those guys. Listen to the Blades. Resolve likes DT770 mids. I do not like DT770 mids. That's my least favorite part about it, and the treble. Things Resolve hates fun and lower mids.
I mean, where's the lie?
This is all a lie.
Quitu says we have enough headphones.
No, we don't.
Sadly, I don't think we do. Like,
We
we
have enough
have
bad headphones.
there should be fewer headphones, but the headphones that we have aren't good enough.
Yeah. Blaine sometimes looks like that he listens to Caramel Dancing and is traumatized.
Caramel dancing.
I'm not familiar with this.
It's an old internet meme.
Okay. I'm just trying to think if there's any other news. Oh, subjective reviews are mostly useless because of how quickly people's brains adjust to glaring flaws in the mid-range. I mean, everywhere. Why stop at the mid-range? They can only tell about bass level and peaks in the treble. I think there are many reasons why purely subjective reviews are not that useful. But I don't have a problem with, say, for example, Mark Ryan's reviews, where he's giving his subjective review, but also giving a graph, you know?
Hobby talk. Wife, what are you listening to? Me, headphone nerds. Wife, how have they not run out of things to talk about?
No, we have. Well, a long time ago.
I
That's
mean,
why we need
sort of. I actually have something that I was interested in talking about, which is your invention.
my invention. Oh, I don't know that I want to talk about that yet. It's not even an invention. It's just like it's a proposed concept. Actually, here is the you're talking about this, right? Like the new version of this I want to be.
Yes.
Right? Okay, yeah.
Yes, Resolve has a new invention that's going to revolutionize headphones.
I
So
don't
spread
think
the
it
word
will.
on that one.
I
It
don't
will
think it
remove the lower bass from any headphone. Or sorry, the mid bass from any headphone.
That's gonna
Just
be
like
one of the
instant dip.
options for the for the module. Yeah.
Actually, here's a good take in chat. I would unironically be invested in a DT990 review by Resolve.
Yeah, I have one here.
Yeah. So
So
this,
I would wanted to make a video that is titled "The DT990 is Misunderstood." Fabian
is it
Brinkman has entered the chat.
is it is it a defense? Is this the apology?
Yeah. Well,
Interesting.
okay. So it's misunderstood and it isn't, right? Like, I can't fault somebody for having the same experience with it that I do, which is that it is like an unmitigated disaster, that it is truly fucking horrible to listen to. Like, it makes music sound awful. Because that's how I hear it. However, after seeing some of that data, you know, from Joel Narrative, and but also from, you know, like presumably that was with fresh pads, right? I assume it was. Makes me think that it is a bit misunderstood by both the people who hate it and the people who love it. So
Probably
yeah,
true of all headphones, but the DT990 one is
it's gotten a lot of hate and a lot of it's quite on the extremes, right? So
it's polarizing.
yeah, it's polarizing. So it's worth
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative. It gets people
yeah.
going.
I the other okay, here's the problem though. I've been trying to do the padware thing, and every time I test it, it's still bright as shit. So the padware has not sufficiently done what it was alleged to do, or what it was. Yeah,
Maybe you need to sweat more into them.
I probably
You
need
should
to
wear
use
them while
them.
you work out.
I need to use them, but then this would involve me using them, and that would
Yeah,
be
wear them while you
torture.
lift. It's like you have to complete 10 reps at an
While I
ATD
lift,
until
assuming I
yeah,
lift.
bro doesn't lift.
No, my muscles just naturally grow. One of them natural muscle growers. Um,
Dude, do you
okay.
see that one kid in, like, Germany or whatever who doesn't have the thing that inhibits muscle growth, so he's just, like, bodybuilder shredded?
No.
It's like
What a weird genetic thing.
yeah, there's cats who have that too, and they just look like fucking they look like they've been fed steroids all their lives. It's so cool.
Yeah, crazy. Oh, Reluctant Engineer says EQ DT 990 challenge. It's impossible. It is not impossible. It is not impossible. It's not even probably that hard. Like, I feel like I could fairly easily make it tolerable and even sound good. Oh, got a notification. Notification. Any other news? Oh, it's for the clickbait title. Ah, okay, I gotcha. You need to see an HD 800S review by Resolve. Yeah, I could do an updated one. I have one here somewhere. Um, Oratory's EQ for the DT990 saved me from an unintelligent purchase decision. Okay, here's the question though. Like, what was the motivation to buy the DT990 in the first place? Like, where I've seen a number of different places that would
I
that
mean, it can be pretty cheap, and
well,
it's not badly put together.
there's that, but I'm just wondering if it's more from the gamer crowd or if there were like, you know, more like our side of the stuff. Uh, People saying it was good. The studio people say it's good. Uh, yeah, okay. I don't know. I have this thought process that like people just buy people just repeat this message about those headphones being good for studios because it was something that took off a long time ago, and now it's just like unnecessarily, carrying forward. Doesn't help that it's like marketed that way. Same thing with I don't know. Same thing with basically all of them, except for I'm looking at the Evento 300. But the
Isn't
funny
it Avento?
Evento, yeah, I had like it doesn't matter what you do. Like you can show people like any graphs on these products, and they can be as horrible as can be, and you will still get people saying you just don't understand. These are meant for studios. It's like, all right, fine, fuck it. It's meant for studios. Like,
I had that a couple of days ago, actually. I got tagged for some reason in some purchase advice server,
oh yeah,
and someone was like, never buy an HE 400 SE. They have incredibly bad FR consistency, and the HG6XX is much better. And I was like, both acoustically and in terms of the data I have, it should be the other way around.
hmm.
Like, for all the flaws of hi-fi, man, they're so simple that they don't change that much. Whereas the HD 600, I'm sure we've all seen Oratory's plot where it's just like a quite wide tolerance band.
Yep, I've also tested similar.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of an inevitability of that style of construction, right?
Yes, yep. So it goes. All right. Jamie says DT990 got really popular among the gamers as well, since a few popular streamers use them. So that's
Please
my
censor the
thinking.
word gamers. Yeah, I
um,
mean, it's weird to me that the HD 700 didn't, given that they were used by a couple of really big gamers for a while.
o-
But
okay, I have a question for you.
yep,
As a gamer,
derogatory.
yeah, if you couldn't use the HD 800, what would you use with no EQ?
Price no object, or
Say under $1,000, or like under 2,000 even. Like I'm just saying, like don't pick the
uh,
HE one.
probably like an Aria.
Yeah. Okay.
like an Aria and some Eggy boy. Find the Eggy boy that was most agreeable in general tuning.
Aria Unveiled. I don't know that you'd like
Yeah,
it.
I could do the RU.
It's
I don't
I'm
know.
not sure. I'm not
Like,
sure. You might like it, but
eh,
it actually measures similar to the HD800.
yeah, no, I mean that's kind of why that. Plus, they're not too heavy and they have space for my ears. Not as much space as the HD800, but they have space. Oh wait, no, if it's under 2,000, that'd be the Composer.
Really?
Yeah, the Composer is just like your HD800, but slightly worse.
I got raked over the coals for saying basically the same thing.
I
Like
mean,
why would I buy this when I could just get the HD800 if I wanted that kind of sound was my sort of perspective on it. Because it's a lot more
yeah,
expensive, right? Like it's like another $1,000 or something.
is it? I thought it was like 1,800. If it's
No, I think
not,
it's
if it's, oh geez, is it more?
I think it's like $2,500 or something like that.
Oh well, I wouldn't be able to afford it. Oh Jesus, $2,700. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I don't. Um,
Jesus Christ. Yeah,
uh,
no, it just sounds like we made a slightly different flavor of the HD800,
which
and
is not a
honestly, it
bad
kind of feels
thing
like that.
to to aim for those same design choices. I will say it is probably going to be more HPTF variant than the HD800,
I
given its
would not
design.
be confident in making that prediction.
My
I would
reasoning
be
is
interested in seeing that tested.
so my reasoning is it is very sensitive to this.
Ah.
So if depending on the contour of the head, it could change the sound quite a bit. I'm not talking about the ear proximity thing necessarily. I'm talking about the positional stuff.
So Joel says he doesn't agree at all, and the Composer sounded so weird compared to the HD800. It does sound weird compared to the HD800. That's it. It's the HD800, but worse.
It's the HD 70 HD 790.
I mean, that's giving it too much credit, in my
Okay.
opinion. But yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know. I mean, I think that it's tolerable.
Wait,
It's
how much is
not
the
my
Empyrean
favorite.
2?
Like 3K. That's
Oh, is it
I
really?
would have picked that if it wasn't super expensive.
Oh, yeah, it is 3K. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, it's, they did blah, 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 500 hours of machine time or whatever per cup.
Yeah.
It's not that much, but it's still like a lot. It's a really
Ooh,
inefficient on purpose design.
there's a new Abyss headphone called the Joel, made in the
Is it
honor
new
of.
meta?
Yeah, I was gonna say uh, the Joel. I wonder how much this one is going to be.
I don't like how it looks.
Well, it looks the way it looks. Oh, jack of all listening. That's what it is meant to be. Okay, maybe this is their attempt at making something like a bit more like kind of even keel. I don't know. I don't see a
It
link
would
for it.
immensely surprise me if this is good.
2750. Yeah, it's a pricey boy.
I mean, that's
I'm just thinking
Abyss.
the idea of like making something that is meant to be more suitable for everybody
Yeah, but that could
is
just be referring to the price.
but it's still $2,700.
The Joel? No, the Joel is 1,900.
Oh wait, this is probably in Canada money.
Oh, yeah, I mean, LeMayo.
Rip. Suddenly, all my money is worthless.
Yeah, it goes that way.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't. It's
flashbang
like
on
it
a
has the
Sunday.
Diana band. It's just like I don't see the appeal.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what I would choose for gaming if I couldn't
Capra
choose
says it
the
uses a popular
HD100.
AliExpress cable. Well, that's nice. I like AliExpress cables if they're good.
I would probably choose a 490 Pro for gaming.
That was something I was thinking about. I still haven't had it on my head. I really want to. I don't know if it fits me right. If it does, then it seems like the obvious choice.
Or the MV1, the Sony MV1. One of those two.
I don't think the Sony MV1 will fit me right.
Why not?
Sony stuff never really does. It's just a
Hmm.
little bit off.
It has a very similar cup design to the Composer.
Maybe then.
Yeah. Joel says he uses an RTX 4090 for gaming.
Use an
Yeah, but
RTX 4090 to play Helldivers.
it's difficult to. That one never fits me right either. You know, like putting the. Never mind.
So someone in chat says, "What am I missing by getting an HD 800 instead of an 800S?" Essentially nothing. Like the difference is possibly a notch in the treble. You will want to equalize most likely. There is no loss.
What are you talking about? There's a massive
Someone
difference. There's an S. And that's black.
I
It
prefer the
basically
silver look.
it took a part of the SDR mod, right? Like it didn't do the whole. It wasn't the whole thing.
Well, it has a resonator.
Yeah, but it's
Yes.
not. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I mean, like if you didn't like the, it still has a 6K peak. There's something like that, depending on like 6 to 8K on the HD100S. At least the unit I have here does.
I
Why
don't
listener hates?
agree that.
Oh,
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry. No, that one's a pretty easy one
Why does listener hate planers?
because they have trouble.
Accurate. All right. The difference is that the HD800 looks awful and the HD800S is less awful looking. I agree. Good take.
I think that I would rather it own its style rather than trying to hide the fact that it still looks like a cyborg abomination.
Yeah.
Like that's why I think the HD 800 looks better than the S because the S is like trying and failing to cover up what a spurg it is.
What is?
Nothing.
Was this? Is this a furry thing?
No.
Okay.
This is a contraction of Asperger's.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. No, it is.
Pandemonium
No.
says what?
Never mind.
The 109 Pro is the most comfortable headphone ever made. I did not find it that comfortable.
I find it very comfortable. I have one here.
It doesn't really fit on me right. It's not bad. The clamp isn't quite right for me. It
Oh,
doesn't
that
sit
can
as
be,
securely
the
as I'd
clamp can
like.
be changed.
How?
You just bend the headband out. I had to do
Okay,
that.
yes. The clamp can be changed if you bend the metal. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
You can bend it back. Um, yeah, actually, like when it comes to like the like headbands are a real challenge to get right, so that it can accommodate like lots of different or a wide range of head sizes.
And someone in chat says, why did Aurorus Audio make the new Borealis look rusted?
See, that's a rustic look. Rustic
Did they
headphones.
make it look
Yeah,
rusted?
they did. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's an
It's
interesting finish.
thing is, I am not a fan of this driver. Oh, I see where they have that peak there at 5 point something. You know what's funny is I bet that peak at 5.3 kilohertz or 5.4 kilohertz, I bet it doesn't show up on the 5 and 2/8. I bet that peak shows up at like 6 kilohertz.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not super into the whole patina look, but I don't know. I don't think it looks bad. And suddenly, I know that you don't like that driver, but the new one, the Quasar, doesn't have it. It has a new driver.
Oh, from whom?
I can't disclose that. I know the answer, but it would probably not be chill of me to say that. If
Okay.
people are interested, they can potentially ask AMR themselves.
Fair, fair. What is it? I'm just trying to look at it here. Doesn't look like an Ola Wolf.
It is not. It is a custom design. Like it is
Oh,
something that was, well, it is a customized driver for them. Anyway,
yeah. Okay. I want
okay,
to
this
try
is
it.
actually, yeah. They're not going to send it to you. They have a
No,
policy against sending it to store-based reviewers, so you'd have to get someone from the community to do it.
they
But I
have a
imagine a lot of
policy.
people will buy it. So
Yeah.
what?
A policy, you say?
Oh no, I mean I think that Ruck is pretty open and consistent about his stance that he doesn't really feel that review plus store is a model he can support.
Yeah, fair.
So I wouldn't expect
Um,
to see them on Bloom or whatever either.
yeah, where did we get our Borealis though?
I'm
Somebody
sure
sent it.
someone in the community sent it in. It's quite popular, at least with the sort of Discord crowd.
Yeah.
Lucas says Yormo from Sennheiser is now working with Grell. He said that people's expectations for the OAE one were incorrectly set up because they're so different from normal headphones. What do you think? Well, they're different in that they're not good. Actually, that is kind of normal for headphones. I mean, Sean is gonna not Sean, sorry. Axel is doing a presentation on why we need a new target curve.
Right
And
after Sean's.
yeah, I'm gonna attend it. I'm not gonna heckle him, but during the Q&A, I plan to be thorough in examination of his premises because honestly, the free field thing is such cope.
Do you think he's going to propose a free field based one?
Well, that's what they did with the OAE one.
I know. I'm
It's
just.
much
Their whole thing is to try and test the acoustic impedance thing, right?
no, that's one thing, but the acoustic impedance thing is separate to
I
tuning.
know that's what I'm saying is like what I'm wondering is if his talk is less about the free field thing and more about we need a new target curve because we need to consider the acoustic impedance thing more.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. I'm honestly quite skeptical that it's going to be a good talk, but his last talk was good, so hopefully I will be proven wrong. But I think that the whole, you know, it's not me, it's the children who are wrong thing is really not a great look for the OAE one. At some point you just have to kind of acknowledge that maybe you had a hypothesis and it has not been field tested well.
Yeah, yeah. I actually think that's how he treats it. It's like, well, you just have to try it and see what people think, and which is reasonable, right? Like, you have an idea and you think maybe it could work, so you try it and see what people think. And
Thank you, Robo Andrew.
I had literally. Oh, am I roboting out?
You were going crick crack.
Oh, is it better now?
Still are. No.
How about now?
Better.
Okay, cables make a
You need
difference.
to you need to get a new cable, man.
I've gotten several new cables. It's this whatever this one from Amazon is a piece of shit. I need something with like uh, diamond coated.
I actually got a quote on the Diamond domes recently for drivers.
Oh, we
It
should
was
try that.
simultaneously more money than I expected. Well, all right, I can tell you how much it was for two.
Okay,
$1,000 for
that
the
tracks.
domes. Honestly, it's less than I expected. Unironically, like given how much of a pain in the ass it is to do, but also on the flip side, I'm not going to make something with $1,000 of diaphragm material.
Well, you could do like why wouldn't you just do like diamond like carbon, right? It's got diamond in the name. For marketing purposes, it's just as good.
That is like
So,
in terms of actual pure diamond like carbon slash diamond domes, that is what we're talking about. You can just do a coating, which is different, but this one was like pure diamond.
wow,
Yeah, I mean,
that's what they should make the Tournaire out of.
the focal.
Yeah,
I mean, beryllium is in some respects more expensive. So,
yeah, yeah.
like, beryllium is incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
Pandemonium says, should vented front volume headphones require different FR than sealed front volume headphones because they're not completely coupled to the ear? I personally can't think of a reason for that. Like,
Sure, I understand the question.
the question is, if you have a sealed headphone and a headphone that has an open or partially open front, is the target FR people prefer different? And I don't think that there's any reason that it should be, assuming that the FR is the same in situ.
Okay. But was that in reference to the question about acoustic impedance, which Grell is interested
Yes.
in? Okay, gotcha.
I think that the question is whether there's an impact of acoustic impedance on preferred FR. It would somewhat surprise me if there were, but I guess it could be.
Yeah. I I just don't know how you would actually control for FR the eardrum with something like that.
Probe mics.
It has to be probe mics. But then
I
how do
mean, you
you
don't have to
know?
do eardrum because the differences will be at low frequency. So you could just have,
Well,
for that, you could even integrate the mic into the front baffle of the headphone.
so this might be totally wrong, but my for some reason I have it in my head that Axel's hypothesis here has to do with specifically the non auditory effect of high acoustic impedance, right? Like it's like at least it's partially to do with that, where it's like there's this sort of like closed feeling that people don't like.
Well, so we knew about that already. He also has been looking into whether when FR is held constant,
If
people
yeah,
just plain don't prefer higher acoustic impedance stuff.
yeah, like yeah,
The the thing that makes me very, very anxious about his presentation is the ending sentence, which is today to reflect a greater emphasis on fidelity. Grell Audio presents a proposal for a new target curve.
so which makes you think maybe he wants to do the free field thing.
Well, I think that he has some cockamamie idea of what constitutes an accurate headphone FR, and now he's just going to throw that at the market until his brand fails.
Right. Well, I'm gonna chat with him. I think before that, so we'll see. Um, see if I can do an interview with him.
Yeah,
He is one of the legendary designers of all time.
involved in my headphone, involved in the HD 800. No, I mean, Axel's a smart guy. I just kind of think that he's gotten into that sort of phase of life where older engineers seem to get kind of caught on pet theories and not be able to escape.
I hope it works out.
Yeah. I mean, I wish Axel all the success in the world. I just hope that he isn't, high on his own supply.
Right.
Axel is in his vitamin C era.
Oh my god.
Lucas says the HD800 looks comfy on your head. My head is A-shaped, and all headbands are at the middle of my head eventually. So this is sort of an interesting question.
Which is A or V?
A.
Like which is
So
okay?
so he's saying my head has more of an even curvature along the top, which is
Oh,
true. It
okay.
does.
Yeah.
Um, I also have thick hair, which helps with the comfort there.
Hmm.
Um, I personally feel, and so DMS has a pinhead as well, and he likes the HD 650 style bands where there's a notch out
Yeah.
directly on the crown. To me, those have always been uncomfortable. I think that a compliant suspension strap is almost always the best approach, but
You just make the headphone light.
yeah, but that's not all of it.
It's not all of it. It's true. Um. Okay. Someone says, "How are semi-open headphones? I rarely see them. There's some.
I mean, the definition of semi open is very, very inconsistent.
What about semi-closed?
I mean, like the definition given in standards for semi open is sealed front volume, open rear volume.
But then it's just an open headphone.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like when people say semi open, they're basically just saying this is a open headphone that I feel is closed vibes. like there's not really much of a there.
Would you say this is semi-open,
No, that's
or just
open.
it's just open, right? Yeah,
Yeah, the acoustic impedance at the rear is tiny.
yeah,
It's an open headphone.
yeah. I'm trying to think of other examples that be semi-open.
I mean, the DC 990 claims to be semi-open, and I guess the logic is because it has a higher impedance either on the baffle or the pads than the 880, which is why it
Dude,
has bass.
did you see when DMS took apart the DT 1990 Pro 2?
No.
Well, he didn't take apart's the wrong word. He basically took he took a picture of the inside of the cup, and it's basically a closed headphone with a few holes.
Well, I mean, yeah, but the thing is, the question is not the amount of holes. The question is the impedance.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'd actually, and you'd be surprised how few holes you need to be
to
pretty
be able to
open,
get, yeah.
from a low frequency standpoint, at
But
least. So
I kind of feel like that's colloquially appropriate to refer to it as a semi-open headphone.
I don't like treating it as a separate category because I
No,
feel
I
like
don't
it gives
either.
people the misconception that it means something.
Yeah,
Like that's sort of my worry there.
yeah. The baffle is almost entirely sealed
That's not
for the
uncommon for those sorts.
1990 Pro.
Wait, is it?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Or is the listener referring? Oh, is the listener referring to something else?
Rob Hawk says there is no point in dousing a kangaroo with perfume. Says you, Rob.
What if you're trying to invite it to dinner?
I mean, honestly, I just want them to stink less.
Yeah, yeah. I had a friend growing up who went to Australia to do kangaroo culling because they have a real problem there with overpopulation of kangaroos, and so you just drive around in a truck and shoot kangaroos.
Enviable.
Yeah, I've eaten kangaroo. It
How was it?
was it was okay. It tasted like venison. I've also eaten crocodile. Don't
What
recommend
did it taste?
crocodile. It was not
Not a
good.
good. Not
No.
good.
Uh,
Stick to making boots out of it.
yeah, swampy, chewy, fishy steak.
I
It
mean,
was,
it being swampy kind of makes sense.
yeah, yeah. It was mainly the texture and the toughness of the meat that was not appealing to me. Jerky is the only way to eat croc. Yeah, that would make sense. I could see that.
Lucas says, "What do you think about some reviewers referencing music they're listening to in their reviews? I think Cameron has done that in his reviews before. Do you think it's helpful? I
I don't.
personally don't think it's helpful.
I don't. I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, like, I wouldn't be like, we should, lynch Cameron over it, but to me, that's not especially useful. I don't know. The degree to which music, like individual songs and albums matter, is almost a higher level of precision than I think I would be comfortable describing most headphones with, just because I know that experiences vary.
Well, I don't think in this situation it's like people are using it to uniquely review the headphone. It's like an additional thing that they're providing to say, "Oh yeah, I really liked how this did the experience of listening to, whatever this music was with these headphones." Um, because of this part of the song that I really like. Like I have no problem with that, and I actually do think at the very least that gives somebody a Frank Jackson like reference point to be able to be like, "Oh yeah, that sounds cool."
It also
So in
has a
that,
narrative merit. Like saying that is a lot more evocative
oh
than
for sure,
saying,
I get.
there's a slight brightness in the FR.
Yeah, and this is what this is part of the discussion that folks were people don't like my reviews, or I shouldn't say don't like. They're just they prefer when I'm doing things where I'm talking about certain things that I'm hearing in music, you know,
I
with
think that
given
that's
headphones.
a uncontroversial thing to want from a headphone reviewer.
Yeah, um, but obviously, like we're also giving data, so like for us, it's not just like I'm not just purely reviewing it based on the music that I'm listening to. I'm providing it for folks. People don't like my reviews 2020. It's true, they don't. They don't. I am I am a
We
shitty
seem to get
headphone
a lot
reviewer.
of views for people not liking your reviews.
I am a shitty headphone reviewer, and I probably shouldn't do this.
Bro.
It's true. No, like it's kind of like I don't know. If I were new to this hobby and trying to, you know, just get into it, right? We talk about stuff that is just like normal people don't have a reason to care about. Like I had that realization. Like we get into the weeds on stuff that most people have no reason to care about. It's helpful once you get a little bit into that, but for the average person, like it's tough sometimes.
I think
Like,
that we should do more stuff that is pertinent to more normal people, frankly.
yeah, like I can't expect people to know what I like. I'm pretty sure if I looked at like I haven't done this, but if I looked at like the audience drop off in a video, it would probably correlate really well with any time that HRTF is mentioned. Just
I
like it's a tick.
I suspect you are right.
So there's got to be a way to try and help people, more people get onboarded with all this stuff.
Listener says the Volume S review was more fun than the others because you talked about specific effects on specific music
Well,
at the
that's what I'm
moment of
saying. Yeah.
listening.
Yeah, but the irony is that video performed very poorly, so maybe that's not what the people
Well, yeah, but
wanted.
that was because it's reviewing an IEM, and IEMs are bad.
Wow, that's
You should try that, but do it
two
with
things
like
can be true at
as
the same time. I don't know. It's because IEMs are bad.
you should do that with like an MDR V6 or 7506 or
You know what?
something. I
I
bet you'd
should
get a lot
review
of
an
views.
MDR 7506. I
Yeah,
I would
why not?
love to review an MDR 7506. There's no or actually, you know what? I need to reach out to that guy from Sony to get
Yeah.
the new MV. Is it the MV one? No, M1, whatever the closeback one is. Um, I want to review that one. Okay, let's do a couple more from
Takes
the
from
chat
chat.
here. Yeah, the best headphone reviewers, the big tech channels. How else do they get so many views?
You're getting called out in chat.
Oh, for what?
Resolve has 1,000 things he'd review someday.
It's true.
We've all been there.
Oh God, you depend on my reviews. Well, I'm truly sorry for that.
If you don't review, he will die.
that's, yeah. That's really what keeps me going.
It's like the trolley problem, but
Yeah,
instead of that, it's like just someone threatening you.
yeah. We should get into trolley problems. Those are always fun. I have a book on them actually.
I don't like Philippa Foot.
the uh, the one I have is actually on moral psychology, but it gets into all the trolley problem stuff. Um, but yeah, there was one. So this got into like some of the experimental philosophy that they were doing, where they're asking people what their reaction would be, or what like how they would handle the situation to try and test like what people's intuitions are when faced with trolley problems. And the one that always got to me was people would have a different answer if like the scenario is like you kill one person to save 1,000, right? The answer would be different depending on the proximity of the person doing the killing to the act. So if they could push a button and it would do this, they would easily do that. But if it came down to like stabbing them with a knife, they wouldn't want to do it.
The one of the classic examples of this is the organ donor, right? Is
Yeah,
it if you're a doctor
yeah,
and someone who comes in would be a suitable organ donor, should you kill them to save 10 people in the hospital?
yeah. What's your answer to that?
Would be, well, all right. My answer is that you shouldn't do it because ultimately the impact on people's trust in the institutions of law and medicine is worse than the loss of those 10 people, right? Like, people need to
Very
believe that
practical
if they
answer.
work with the medical system, it will help them. Otherwise, compliance is going to go down to such an extent that it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah.
So basically, my solution is to dodge the ethical question with a logistical response.
Yeah, yeah. Um, there's certainly there's a deontological response to this. But I know you don't like those. If everybody were to kill the organ donor, okay, we don't need to go there. The categorical imperative.
It's far easier to not be a utilitarian. Shut up, Joel. You have faith. If you don't have faith, it's a lot harder to not be a utilitarian.
No, but I like we should all be good consequentialists.
Okay, listen. I'm not willing to endorse a moral philosophical position on air. There's a lot of controversial
I
things I'll
am.
do on stream, but I won't do that.
It's not really that controversial.
So,
Like you could be a consequentialist. It doesn't rule you out from being a pragmatist. It doesn't rule out intentions from mattering.
so when we're on headphones, what would you guys think would be content that we don't do that we should do? That's something I'd be kind of interested in.
Are you asking
And
me
this
or the
doesn't mean
chat?
we're gonna follow, yeah, chat.
Okay, chat.
This doesn't mean we're gonna do this because you guys have weird ideas. But okay,
Someone's
so
asked.
Capra,
I was just gonna say Stephen McTally was asking for a Porta Pro review. I could review it. It's bad.
you
That's the
should.
review. That's the review. It's bad.
Yeah, I mean, you and Griffin should just do a split review.
Yeah.
Capra says teardown. If I did reviews, they would 100% include a teardown.
We do sometimes do teardowns. I've done a couple of them. I did that one on the 5XX. And shout out to Joshua Valor for sending me that unit. He said, I asked him, I was like, can I take it apart? And he's like, yep, go for it. It was his unit. And to find out that it was the Deva. Eating headphones? Drop durability rating. Blaine would do that. Joel wants reviews of gaming headphones. Yeah, we should do more gaming headphones. That's something I've wanted to get into. I keep saying this. I just need to get good. That's the problem. Like, I'm not going to review a gaming headphone for StarCraft.
Well, I mean, is that the point though?
No, I'm saying that I need to get good at FPS games because that's what people want. You know, for gaming headphones. That's the information that people are interested in. Yeah, I want to try those new Astros. They seem good. Gaming mouse reviews. Do you guys know what mouse Blaine uses?
Actually, do you know what mouse I'm using right now?
Is it a ball mouse?
Yes.
I'm not surprised. Some ergo thing. Exactly. Drama videos. Yeah. I don't understand.
Criticizing other reviewers more. I mean,
People want an EQ tier list. Okay, I have thoughts on this.
how does that work?
An EQ tier list, basically like headphones that you like. How would you rank your headphones if EQ is allowed? Like a tier list based on that.
Don't you already do that?
No, but the tier list that we did before, the big one that we did, was no EQ allowed. So now it's like do one with EQ. So, but the problem there is that, well, there's two problems. One is that people base this on the assumption that, which you know, it's I get it, but basically the idea is like if you make EQ possible, then all those headphones that have poor tonality but good technicalities, right, would be ranked much more highly.
Technicalities.
Yeah. So you get the issue there. But then, you know, for me, the other side of it is like, well, you can theoretically then make any headphone good, right? So like, then really
Well,
it needs
not
to be about
ergonomically
sure, no, but I mean
or
for sound.
mechanically.
Yeah, so it becomes either a tier list of ergonomic and mechanical design, or you have to put limits on EQ in some fashion, or qualify it in some way where you say this is a ease of EQ, right? Tier list, which I also don't think is that interesting because then it's like the headphones that have good FR to begin with are the ones that are at the top. So It's not entirely true, because there are definitely some, like the Aria Unveiled, where it's like it would rank very highly given its ease of EQ for the fine grain shit, right? So like there is the sense in which the hierarchy would shake out that way, and I do think there's value in people understanding that it is a better headphone that, where all I do is at a base shelf, compared to a headphone where I'm doing all kinds of fine grain stuff. Yeah, as Joel says, EQing treble is really hard. So like I feel like it would have to be something about that.
Yeah.
Anyway. Ooh, there's debate.
It would become a comfort tier list, which would be based. I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah. Bring back VTuber Resolve. So much market potential.
I
What?
mean, where's the lie?
When you do the eyebrows, I always think you're going to go somewhere real dark.
Why do you assume the worst of me?
Because it's usually accurate.
You're so rude.
All right.
4 filters max.
Oh, so putting limits on EQ. Okay, 4 filters max. That's interesting.
I mean, that could be a fun game.
That could be,
I don't
that
know
could be a fun
that would
game.
be.
I still want to do a thing where we, each of us, EQs an HD800 or HD800S to the way we want it to sound, like to what we like, our preferences, and then compare the results. I think that would be fun. Like you'd have the DMS result, you'd have the Griffin result, you'd have my result, Cameron's result, maybe yours. We can all just, get a sense of like where people's preferences lie relative to one another.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like EQ is a topic that to some degree we've kind of squeezed a bit, but it'd be. I'll leave for us I do 40 filters max. If you need 40 filters, you need a new headphone.
So I don't think that this is actually, what I'm suggesting is not necessarily about EQ. It's more about what our preferences actually are. Because I think that'd be interesting. But all headphone reviews should include, this headphone is good for this kind of music and bad for this kind of music section. This is not necessarily a great take, but I understand why.
This is the opposite of a great take. This is a bad take.
I understand why. I understand why people want that, though, because there's an implicit assumption that you're getting headphones for a genre. This actually ranks very highly in keywords. So for SEO benefits, yes, reviews should include this.
I mean, we should include it and then an explanation of why that doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you have the same genres, 2 different tracks within 2 different albums in the same genre that are produced very differently. Philosophy Hour with Blaine and Resolve, and more importantly, why wasn't the philosophy episode with listener being absent? No, because the point is to inflict pain and suffering on listener. It's not nearly as fun.
I mean, that's really us talking about philosophy is just him trying to convince me that there have been meaningful advances in philosophy since approximately the year 1900 and me disagreeing.
1900?
Yeah.
What? That's not where the locus of the debate is, though.
I mean, depending on where you framed things, where would you put the locus of the debate?
When do you think Reed was around?
I'm not talking about Reed. I'm saying that I don't see there as having been anything useful post James.
Post James?
Yeah.
This is for your pragmatism stuff.
Yeah.
I think the answer is it depends what kind of philosophy you're talking about.
I mean,
and I'm not meaning analytic versus continental. I mean
getting
in
baited.
analytic, in
we're
the
getting
analytic
baited.
tradition. Yeah,
we've been baited, and we need to stop.
Page 209.
They've derailed us.
On an inquiry to the human mind, the principles of common sense. No, it's
all headphone reviews you guys do should include a comparison versus Apple products. I mean, that's just a good take.
Yeah. Well, it does become a little bit of a weird, like, why would you compare an Aria or like a to an AirPods Pro 2? They're just very different types of things. I guess it's like, like a
When there
general
is a
comparison.
comparable, though, I think it's a
Yeah,
good idea, just in part because those are the things that will most often have relevancy to people, right?
yeah, I guess.
So, I think that the general take of trying to tie headphone reviews that are in a necessarily quite detached from the norm space into something that people might find at all relatable is quite good.
It is 100%. For me, the struggle is more about trying to make it so that the things that I find interesting about a given product is also understood to be interesting by the audience that doesn't know or care about the things that I'm talking about. And so to me, that's like there's a tension or a struggle there because like I understand exactly what people want. I just feel it leads to more confusion and it makes the discourse worse when we
I
start.
understand what people want, but I refuse to give it to them.
No, yeah, they want me to tell them this headphone is more detailed than that headphone and more dynamic. I've done this bit before. They want these simple answers. They want a detail a technicalities hierarchy or tier list or something like that. And I don't want to give that to them because I feel it makes the discourse worse.
I
So
mean, I don't disagree. I think that there are ways to frame things that are less that pose less risk there. Like using comparables that people are used to as opposed to saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to indulge your concept of detail or technicalities or what have you."
mhm.
So I think that like we don't have to give them everything they want, but I think that a reasonable want is to have something that connects them to the content.
I mean that
Did
is
he?
the content.
What?
That is the content that they want. You mean like of the actual like grounded position?
I think it would be good if we had some like for I wish that there was a ubiquitous IEM because the earpods are not a good comparable to anything that's closed in
Oh, I
ear.
see. I see where you go. Yeah, I got you. I got you.
But like I think that giving people reference points is something that would be good, particularly for stuff that may have more
Like a
mass.
6XX of the 6XX is the closest to that, right? Probably.
I wouldn't say it's a mass market product,
Really?
but
In the category of audio and adjacent things, it's probably the closest. I'm trying to think of what else there would be. Maybe
I'd
maybe
say
uh,
closest. I would also say that it's very small in comparison to most of its like that versus an AirPod is multiple orders of magnitude, right? So it'd be nice if there was something like that where we could have, but still, and that said, HD6 X, 6X0 series stuff is a good comparison that probably should be fairly ubiquitously used because people have a much higher chance of actually getting your
mhm.
comparison,
I think the same is
right?
true for Beyerdynamic headphones, right? If you say like a
Yeah,
BT whatever,
that would
BT
imply that you
770.
should be listening to them a lot, though, which I'm
I
not
know
sure
that's
you're
I know
going to
I
do.
know that's why I'm like hesitant to go there. Maybe the gamer crossover really is the reference point for a lot of people though. Like for example, what's the most common gamer headphone that people have? It's something from Steel Series or Razer probably, right? I imagine. I need to figure out what that actually is, but
I mean,
let's
Astro is probably one of the biggest ones, right? So actually, once
maybe.
the A50 fifth gen becomes a thing,
Okay,
that'll actually be quite good.
I'm just gonna try and see what AI tells me on this. What is the
Why
most
would you trust
popular?
AI for that?
It's just about numbers, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
What
but AI hallucinates.
it does. Steel Series. Oh, most popular gaming headsets in 2025. Steel Series Arctis Nova Pro Wireless, HyperX Cloud Series, Odyssey Maxwell. Interesting. And Corsair HS65 Surround. Interesting. I think it's worth it for us to get more into the gaming stuff. I would like to.
Ironically, I'm trying to crank back on the gaming in my everyday life.
Why?
Wrist hurt. Been doing too many flick shots.
Yes, the gaming is the reason.
It's the wrong wrist.
Gotta feel like somebody else sometimes. Sorry.
Everyone goes to the same place when I'm like, I have wrist pain, and it's just,
No,
it's
I
so
used
predictable.
I used to get it from playing drums. I had the like carpal tunnel problem, and it really is the most painful thing. You can't even like use a mouse. Um,
Get buttons you can click with your feet. I have actually considered one of those eye tracked mice, but they're not really precise enough for what I try to do. So
I do want to get
it's
more into
not
the gaming
happening.
stuff though. It just feels weird to be like, yeah, this is my job. I'm a I'm a gamer to test headphones. But
Hello, fellow gamers.
hello, fellow. Exactly. Like, and then I got to play
But
those
the thing is, you could break
games.
into Twitch streaming.
I actually have a Twitch account that I was a Twitch affiliate, but I didn't play the FPS games that much. But although now I use this Razer, whatever this is, the Viper V3 Pro, which is actually pretty good. It's one of the few mice that I've not regretted purchasing. Um, so yeah, I what games should we focus on if we're to do gaming content? I ask you,
Well,
but I also ask the chat.
I mean, I don't think you focus on games like specific, or do you mean just for B roll?
Well, both. Like to be able to, because I feel like you want to talk about like how something does in a given game, right? Like presumably we're talking about like FPS stuff, right? So it's just League of Legends. Yeah, that's the problem. Like I can do the hello fellow gamers bit, but it needs to be relevant to what they're playing.
Yeah, I mean, popular FPS game is probably the right choice here.
What is popular FPS game? That's my question.
Fortnite?
Is oh no, I never liked Fortnite.
I don't like Fortnite either. Someone says Cyberpunk. I feel like people want it to be more competitive though.
Yeah,
Apex
okay.
Legends,
I'm
perennial.
I'm down to play Apex. I played that once.
Yeah,
It was good.
I think Apex. I never found the shooting very satisfying,
It was
but
fun. It's a fun game. Um, yeah, Counter Strike. Counter Strike was always my thing. Call of Duty.
yeah, that's not surprising because you hate fun.
I enjoy suffering.
Counter Strike
Um,
is the exact opposite of fun. So
yeah, I would agree. Valorant. I don't find Valorant that good. I don't like
it
it's.
feels like Counter Strike to me. So I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, I actually prefer Counter Strike to be honest. Um, I am big into Deadlock, or I was for a bit. I don't know how relevant the shooting mechanic, like the audio
Positional
cues.
audio in
Yeah,
in Deadlock. I mean,
yeah.
maybe. I think it
It's
would be
it's definitely
interesting to
relevant, but I
see.
don't know. I don't know if it's that critical. Unreal Tournament. There you go. Quake Arena. Marvel Rivals is definitely popular with the kids these days. That's definitely true.
Is it?
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are playing.
But that's a MOBA, right? So that
No,
doesn't. Does
no, no.
that have a
Marvel
switch?
Rivals is basically, um, it's like Overwatch, but with
It's
Marvel, right?
Marvel Overwatch.
Yeah, that's my understanding of it. I could be totally wrong, but
No, that
that's how.
sounds about right.
Yeah, horror games. That is actually a good answer.
I would play Dead by Daylight with you.
Okay, I'm down for that.
Actually,
Wait, is that
there's
a
a
horror
game that
game?
I've been playing recently that we could totally play together. It's called Nuclear Nightmare. It's
Let me
like
look
The
this up.
Thing. Hit
Nuclear
film
Nightmare.
The Thing, which is highly topical.
Nuclear Nightmare. Okay. Error code 107.
Nice.
All right. Okay. There we go. Oh, okay. Oh, are there any like scary alien games, like alien, like horror games?
I mean, there's Alien Isolation?
Yeah.
Question mark? Like when you say alien games, what defines an alien game?
No, like Alien Isolation.
Oh, I mean, in terms of
Is
the
it?
gameplay loop.
Yeah. I sorry, I meant mostly in that genre. I meant sorry in that IP.
Oh, in the Alien,
Yeah.
I I don't think so. I think there's just the one.
Okay. Um. Yeah. Anyway, I need to figure something out for that. I don't know. Star Citizen.
uh, a classic, a
Ooh,
true
Dead
classic of
Space would
shit
be good.
posting.
Dead Space would be good. Doom,
So
Doom,
not
Doom
quite
Eternal.
old.
I quite enjoy Doom Eternal. That game had a good soundtrack. It was
Bro
hard.
wishes to play the boomer shooters.
Doom Eternal was good shit.
I mean, it is if you like boomer shooters,
I like
which is fine.
I like I like modern shooters too. Like, but I don't know. It's felt
What
like
modern
they're
shooter do you like? We're just giving
uh
up on audio at this point. This is now a
yeah. We
gaming
should end the
stream.
stream actually. Yeah. What modern shooter do I like? Like for multiplayer,
Yeah, sure,
the competitive.
sure.
Yeah, I liked the battle royale games that were coming out, but it's felt like lately they have been sort of like on the decline. Like Warzone has been on the decline. Uh, you know, if there's a
I
if there
liked
is a
DMZ more than Warzone, honestly.
yeah, but basically that's that type of stuff. Um, yeah, I always enjoyed that kind of stuff.
Tarkov
This
still
isn't
exists, and it's
Tarkov
still
still exists.
garbage.
I am not a big fan of extraction shooters. I got to be honest.
Well,
Like
that's what DMZ is.
I mean, right of the other ones, but DMZ is in. It's isn't it in thingy COD? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And they also had their Battlefield version, right? Like
Oh, yes, they did.
yeah,
That kind of
Ground
sucked,
War.
though.
Kind of sucked, yeah. But I was gonna say I like the when there's a good Battlefield game. I like those ones. But that
People
you
these days like Battle Block Theater, I think.
Battle Block Theater.
Yeah, it's like
I know
Battlefield,
what it
but with
is.
terrible graphics.
No, you're thinking of something else. You're thinking of Battle Block Theater is not that. You're thinking of Battle Bit, I think.
That might be Battle Bit.
Yeah. Battle Block
Listen, I
Theater
can't
is
keep
not
track
that.
of all of these fucking shitty indie games.
Yeah. Battle Bit remastered.
Battle
Yeah.
Bit
There you
remastered. That's
go.
it.
Yeah. See? Hello, fellow gamers.
Yeah, see,
Apex
you've
was
proved you're gamer.
Apex was good for a while. I agree. Um, but yeah, stuff like that. I don't know. What's
Someone's
your
saying that.
modern shooter, non-boomer shooter that you enjoy?
I mean, occasionally I'm coaxed back into playing PUBG for a bit, which is fun until my elo gets high again,
I would be
and then
down to
no
play
longer
PUBG.
fun. You would
I would
hold
be
my
down.
elo low, which would be fun.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I enjoy, but don't really have a group for like extraction shooters like DMZ or Tarkov. I'm terrible
Just
at Tarkov, but
Tarkov just so janky. I have it. It's just such a jank fest.
that's
Same,
part of the charm.
I guess, but that's why I liked the DMZ version that we played better.
Yeah. No, I mean DMZ is just better than Tarkov.
Yeah.
Just I don't have people who play it
Is
with
there
me
still
right
like
now.
is it still popular in the new COD?
This I don't know. I haven't played
Yeah,
it.
I haven't done it. Yeah.
Someone in chat saying they like Hunt Showdown. I've never played that, but I've heard good things. I pick up Rainbow Six Siege once a year on average.
Yep.
It's a quite good shooter. It's fun. It's very. It seems more tactical and smart than it is because it's actually intensely cartoony. But it does have some interesting. It has interesting stuff.
I
Honestly, I
enjoyed it.
wish that more games were as creative as it is.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Um, Delta Force. Doesn't that install malware on your computer though? I read somewhere
What the
that Delta
fuck is
Force.
Delta Force?
It's like Battlefield. It's like a Battlefield alternative.
Huh.
It looks good. I looked at it for a while, but yeah.
Someone tried to also mention another one I play, which is Rising Storm. Although I
Oh, is
liked it
that
better when it was Red
like Red
Orchestra.
Orchestra? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. But that's not. Oh shit! What's the Hell Let Loose? Have you played that one?
I haven't. I have
Okay.
heard good things about Hell Let Loose, though.
Yeah, yeah. Seems good.
Griffin's back and is mad that we're talking about gaming.
Yeah. On that note, we should probably end the stream
Yeah, I
because
think
it's
that
only going to
we're.
get worse. So
Yeah, I think we're.
yeah, I think we're done. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Blaine, do you want to take us out?
Yes. As always, this was brought to you by Headphones.com, your number one place to learn about and buy audio equipment and also to discuss video games. Um, a
It
purveyor
is
of
now.
DACs, amps, cables, headphones, and indeed speakers. Probably some other stuff that I'm forgetting. IEMs, if you must. It is the sole monetary support of this channel. There is no Patreon, there's no other mechanism, and God knows the ads don't support it. So if you would like to support the channel, please buy from there. You have, for the majority of products and anything that's not otherwise marked, a 365-day return policy. Uh, there are some limited final sale items. They will be clearly marked, but other than that, you can buy with confidence that you will be able to get a product that you are happy with in the end, no matter what.
Joel
We
says, "What
also
about the
have
bribes?"
we not during this fucking sponsor segment. We also have communities on Discord, which is discord.gg/headphones, and on forum.headphones.com, which is the source of our topics, which honestly we probably should have used today because I think what we've learned is that formless is not going so well.
I am formless.
Yeah, so drop good topics in the drop good topics in the forum thread, and we will talk about them next time.
We went through some of them.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah.
And
All right, guys. Yeah.
that's I think it.
Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Blaine as always, and we will see you guys
Thank you.
in the next one. Bye bye.